Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wanda Green Park. On behalf of Mayor Armstead and the city officials, I'd like to welcome you here today. 9/11 is a day that scarred all of us forever. Each year, as September 11th approaches, our nation relives the tragic loss and unspeakable events of that day. 2,983 people died while traveling, working, or in their position as a rescuer. In addition to that, millions of Americans had a little piece of them die that day as well. September 11th is a day in American history which separated a world that had gone before from a world that came after. Terrorist attacks were something that occurred in the Middle East, in Europe. Americans gazed in shock watching the television, seeing all the smoke and fire as we stood helpless on our own soil for the first time. The safety and security we took for granted before September 11, 2001 would never be the same. Today, we stand united as Americans. We remember our emergency responders, the police, firefighters, and EMTs, who in their line of duty made the ultimate sacrifice. While others ran out of the towers, they rushed in, doing the job they were trained to do, not even giving a second thought that if they would ever come out. What was unique about this tragic event, though, was the impact that it had on small communities, particularly here on the East Coast. In Linden and in the 8th Ward, we have our own special hero, Wanda Anita Green, a flight attendant on United Airlines Flight 93 that was hijacked and crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. This beautiful park here in Linden's 8th Ward was lovingly dedicated to Wanda Green and the crew and passengers of Flight 93. Tonight, we will honor the memory of Wanda and all the victims of that horrific day. But more importantly, as Americans, we have an obligation to never let our young people forget and become vulnerable. I'd like to introduce our Eagle Scout candidate from Troop 330, Kevin Orcutt, who's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Kevin?
Oh, God. Carry. Go. Raise that. Raise that. Go. Carry. Go. Order. Order.
Thank you, Kevin. Now I would like to introduce our mayor, Derek Armstead, who will say a few words.
Thank you, Michelle. 9/11 is a day that we'll never forget. But the one thing I'll tell you about 9/11 is that the terrorists who tried to destroy our way of life, the only thing they succeeded at doing was bringing us closer together. The American spirit is strong. And we know that those who will try to destroy it are simply jealous of the lifestyle that we share here in America. We should never forget what they tried to do to us in this country. And that, my friends, will keep us together forever. Wanda Green was a Linden resident. And all over this country, many communities like ours were affected by that terrible day. So again, I salute the members of this community for coming out and remembering her as we do all those who died, who gave their lives that day in September 2001. So again, I thank you all for coming out. And again, my message to everyone is never forget. Never, ever forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce our police chief, James Schulhafer, who will speak about tribute to our police.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Hello, everyone. As you know, today is the 14th anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks. 14 years is a long time, but I'm sure that for everybody here, those memories are still vivid. There were almost 3,000 casualties that day, including 418 emergency service workers. And I'm grateful to be here today as we remember and honor those men and women who sacrificed so much in the name of freedom. Much has changed since that day in 2001, but much has also remained the same. Back then, we were concerned with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Today, we rarely hear those names. They've been replaced by groups such as ISIS, a much more violent and extreme group. And today, we are not only concerned with preventing large-scale terror attacks, such as jetliners being hijacked and used as weapons, but we're also focused on smaller attacks that can be carried out by one or two people. In fact, in recent years, that's been the trend. From the Boston Marathon bombings to all the shootings that have taken place in our schools, churches, and workplaces. But in many respects, these smaller attacks can be much more difficult to prevent. There are no communication networks or internet sites available to hack, and there are no large groups of people that we can infiltrate. The planning can be done in absolute secrecy. Usually our only recourse is to observe or hear something out of the ordinary. And this is where we have to rely upon the public to let us know that something is not quite right. We have had calls from citizens informing us of seeing someone taking pictures at the refinery. We've had calls from people informing us of packages or luggage being left behind at the train station. We also get calls from businesses and school administrators informing us of erratic employees or of students who passed a suspicious comment to someone. We take these type of calls very seriously and immediately begin an investigation into whether or not it could be a credible threat. We also take this information, pass it on to county and state officials who try to piece it together with information gleaned from other communities. So I would encourage everyone here to keep your eyes and ears open, and please don't hesitate to contact us if you see something suspicious. And always try to be aware of your surroundings and be observant of things that just don't seem normal. When you're in a large group of people, always take a few seconds and map out an exit strategy. Do this until it becomes second nature. It's unfortunate that we have to learn to think like this, but it's really a small price to pay for your safety and that of your loved ones. I would like to thank Councilwoman Yamakaitis, all the residents of the 8th Ward, and the Green family for continuing to have this memorial service every year. It's important that we never forget the sacrifices made by the victims on that fateful day of September 11, 2001. And we must be ever vigilant in ensuring that those events are never repeated. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our fire chief, Chief Joseph Dooley, who also was with the bagpipers. So thank you, Chief Dooley.
Thank you, Michelle. Doing a little double duty tonight. I always consider it a privilege and an honor to be invited to this ceremony because it's dedicated to one of our citizens. The fire department, police department this morning gathered, and we had our service dedicated to us. And so that, for me, tonight is about Wanda Green. Wednesday night, we had a little gathering of the police department and the fire department in preparation for tonight's Battle of the Badges game. It's a very nice event to have those men who stood together on 9/11 in a casual, informal setting as we get ready for today's ceremonies and honoring of all these people who have fallen. Jennifer Green was at the event, and she made a little speech that really hit me very personally. She described how hard it was for her every year to participate and be involved in the ceremony because it brought back the pain that she lived through. Made me really think about this as a father, as a husband, as a fireman. I understand this, and I had a great deal of empathy towards her, and I really thought about this. And I've decided, or came to believe, that it is still very important that we continue to memorialize and honor those people who fell on 9/11, and especially Wanda Green. I know it's hard for her family every year. But we still have to remember this because the reality is we're still living it. Every day, there are still fallouts and consequences of the 9/11 attack. Tuesday night, the New York City Fire Department added 21 names to its Wall of Honor. Firefighters who died as a result of illnesses born from the recovery efforts at 9/11. I'm sure there are plenty of police officers who suffer from that, construction workers who helped it out. And also, every day for 14 years, our armed services continue to live the consequences of 9/11. And so I can only say to Wanda's family, I share and understand how hard these days are for you, but it is imperative that we always remember not only those who we have lost 14 years ago, but those people who continue every day to live with the effects, the impact, the implications of the 9/11 attacks. Thank you for inviting the fire department to be part of this. We consider it a pleasure, and God bless America.
like to thank everyone for coming out here this evening. We have our police recruits, our fire department, our honor guard from the fire department, ROTC, Post 91. We also have our scouts from Troop 330. But I'd like to recognize these young men standing to the left of me here. St. John's Troop 330 and their leader, Freddie Reyes. As many of you who live here in the 8th Ward know, these young men came out on a hot August day to help out one of their fellow scouts, Kevin Orcutt. Kevin, could you step forward, please? He has made this park his Eagle Scout project. He has several things planned which will be revealed when the project is finally completed. It's almost done. But I just want to say thank you to him. When he and Mr. Reyes approached me about doing this project here in Wanda Green Park, I was so excited. Particularly since it ties into that September 11th has become the National Day of Service and Remembrance. How ironic. This project symbolizes what we as Americans hold dear, our American values. If you recall the story of Stone Soup, that is what Kevin's Eagle Scout project reminds me of. He and Troop 330 started the day of landscaping and weeding alongside their parents. Then we had our neighbor, Mr. Check, who every year supplies us with the electricity for this event. He came out and he said, I can supply the water for the new plantings, which followed by Frank McCucci and a tree crew from Public Works say, we will trim the trees. And they're working with Public Works to replace the old fence. Today we had one of our neighbors, Ed, come over. He said, I'm going to polish the stones here. As Lindenites, this is what our blue-collar community in America is all about. Standing alone, things seem sometimes impossible, but united, we can accomplish great things. I want to thank Mr. Reyes and all the scout leaders of our Linden and our Linden ROTC who always bring the scouts and the cadets here to this ceremony. Wanda loved the flowers. I know she's smiling down on Kevin and the Boy Scout troop. So thank you again for all your efforts. We really appreciate it. I'm going to conclude this evening with a short poem. It's called We Always Stand United. History has recorded many years of war. Our blood was shed in other countries and on our fields and shores. And through it all, others have tried to see America divided. But we remain a brotherhood. We always stand united. Sometimes it takes a great tragedy to see our colors come through. But our flag keeps us tied together with its vibrant red, white, and blue. The tyrants and terrorists of the world have tried to make us fall, but as a country, we are strengthened, standing proud and tall. We will always have to strive to let our freedom ring, yet our love of America can be heard in our anthem that we sing. And through it all, others have tried to see America divided, but we remain a brotherhood. We always stand united. Thank you again, everyone, for coming out. I'm so proud of Linden and the 8th Ward to see so many people here. I heard on the news this morning that some of the attendance at the New York ceremony was dwindling a little bit, but year after year we see so many of the same faces, so I thank you on behalf of the Green family, Mayor Armstead, City Council, Members Gretchen, Nikki Brook and Bob Sadowski and the rest of Council, and our police and fire departments. Thank you, everyone, and have a safe trip home.